Welcome to MicroStrategy World 2024. This is actually our second live event in person post-COVID, so it's nice to see all your faces and get together. It's not quite the same over Zoom or Teams or these kinds of things. As some of you might know, last year we introduced this fun little robot called Hackaton, and Hackaton was actually symbolic of our transformation as a company. A company that's more nimble, innovative, fun. And actually, it kind of goes back. It's called Hackaton because we're all engineers at heart, and we want to build great software and want to move really fast. And as you've probably already seen in the hallways and outside this room, there's a new member of the family this year that we're introducing you to today. And that new member is Otto. And Otto quite literally represents the transformation of our product. And so that's really what I'm here to talk to you about today. But it's kind of funny, isn't it? It's sort of ironic that Phong was here for the last half an hour talking about looking up and getting out of screens and being more human and interacting at the front line. But I'm here talking about robots and AI and machines and things like this. It seems a bit contradictory. But actually, it's not that contradictory. If you think about who we are as humans, we are tool builders. And humans, for 250,000 years, we've been building tools and inventing things to amplify our human abilities. And this is what's allowed us to live longer, connect better around the world, travel globally, trade globally with currency and money, right? So it's really up to all of us, and that's why I hope you're all here. It's up to all of us to take that technology and these brand new innovations like AI and help better humanity and better our frontline workers and our employees along the way. And so we've got all this tech, but this is not working. But we really need to start with the end user and work our way back to the tech. And Steve Jobs said this about a quarter century ago, which is a long time ago. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, in our personal lives, things have gotten much more convenient. For end users in the personal world, you can click a button and you can grab an Uber. You can click a button and you can order something. You can click a button and you can stream video. You can click a button and fly to Tokyo later today if that's what you want to do. And so our lives have definitely gotten easier and have improved in the personal world. But in the enterprise space, we're still struggling, aren't we? I mean, it takes me longer to book a travel or do expenses in my enterprise life than it is in my personal life. And so we have a long ways to go. And the question then becomes, what's the problem? Like, why have we not solved this in the enterprise world? We've done a pretty good job of solving this in our personal lives. And it all really comes down to friction. We've got data silos, data's in multiple places. We've got users, and I got to tell you, users don't want to learn new tools. They don't want another dashboard. They don't want another thing. And all of this stuff requires maintenance and cost that gets harder and harder for us to deal with. And going back to Phong's keynote about the lifeblood, it's sort of like we've got cholesterol clogging our arteries, and things are just not flowing the way that it should. And so now we need to figure out, well, how do we solve this problem? And the truth is, we've been actually trying to solve this problem for the last 20 years. And the current way, by the way, I think is the hard way. The current way is to build new infrastructure. It's like digging up the roads and putting in new pipes and those kinds of things. It's new data warehouses, new ERP systems. And the truth is, these are long projects. I was actually talking to a customer just yesterday, and I won't mention names, and it made me kind of smile, because I'm like, I can say that in my keynote. And they were talking about how they were consolidating 13 different ERP systems. I said, well, how long have you been doing that? And they said, 3 years. I'm like, wow, that's a long time. They're like, oh, no, we're not done yet. But that's the reality of trying to bring all this stuff together. And so we're here to basically tell you that we think there's a better way, right? That a better way is to actually let your data be where it is, let your applications be where they are. Of course, you'll still do digital transformation. You will buy new ERP systems. That's all good. But in addition to doing that, the better way is to kind of fly above and not have to dig. And what that means is we believe that you should be able to connect the dots between those applications. Leave the apps where they are, let the people do what they want to do, and inject intelligence across those applications. Embed it, and connect the dots between the data that you have. In other words, stop digging. And so that's what MicroStrategy ONE is really all about. We engineered it to get you there fast. This is why it's cloud native. It is AI first, right? And there's 3 product pillars on which we've built MicroStrategy ONE: convenience, reliability, and flexibility. So let's just have a look at each of those things. So what is convenience all about? Well, convenience is about letting your users work the way they want to work. And we kind of put this funny little picture up here because, honestly, it's hard enough to get people to even come to the office nowadays, let alone change their behavior and get them to adopt new tools. So let them use the apps that they use. Let them use the data that they already have. Let them use the devices that they have. And by the way, let them work where they currently work. And so that's really what convenience is all about. And we'll show you some things that we're doing in that area. The second is reliability. Now, Fong mentioned a quote from Michael Saylor from 1998, I think it was, about information flowing like water. In fact, fun fact, internally at MicroStrategy, our internal BI system, we actually call it Aqueduct, right? So it's like this strong, reliable way to flow information from one place to another. And hopefully it'll stand the test of time for 2,000 years. But reliability is really about that. If you think about water, imagine going home today, turning on the faucet, and the water not coming out. It would scare you because we're not used to that. And so information needs to be just as reliable. If you don't have reliable information, you don't have reliable water, you don't have reliable currency, if you don't have reliable energy, then society starts to get a little bit tricky, right? And we believe that information and data is just as critical as any of those other pieces as well. And so we've been doing a lot to make sure that your data is trustworthy, that it can scale, right? We're not trying to give clean water to just the kings anymore, right? We're trying to give clean water to everybody and clean data to everybody, so it has to scale. And finally, flexibility. Now, flexibility is all about your ability to change. If you think about your organizations, today, you have whatever number of apps that you have. Maybe you have an Azure strategy or an AWS strategy or a Google strategy. Maybe you have an on-premise strategy. But the reality is these things change all the time. A new executive comes along and says, hey, let's go that way. A new technology gets invented, and everyone's like, let's go that way. And so what we really want you to do is to be able to use MicroStrategy in any of these scenarios, to be flexible, to go between our partners, to work across our partners. And that's really, again, what MicroStrategy ONE is all about. Now, over the past year, we've taken what was the potential of Gen AI, and I use that word precisely because a year ago, Gen AI was really just potential. And we took the potential of Gen AI, brought it into MicroStrategy ONE, and we turned it into reality. And then we wanted to personify that. And so today, I'm proud to introduce Otto. Otto makes BI human for the first time ever. We're able to use generative AI to give Otto linguistic skills so it can understand you. And not just understand you in English and in French and in Spanish, understand you in pretty much any language. And it knows who you are because the MicroStrategy side of things knows who you are as a user, knows what data you have access to, knows what context you're in, right? And so Otto becomes that good buddy, right? That little friend that's with you all the time, and it's always there by your side. And you all will have a chance to get a physical version of Otto, and then you'll all have a chance to build a digital version of Otto. And we designed it physically to be the sidekick of Hackaton. But really, we envision it as being your sidekick to help you, build dashboards faster, get answers to questions faster, enable your frontline workers better. And so that's really what Otto is all about. It infuses AI across every experience in MicroStrategy ONE. So now let's have a look at some of the things that we've built and where we're going next. So the first pillar is convenience. And Otto makes BI more convenient than ever. And it basically allows you to automate the creation of dashboards. You can build custom bots. You can embed those bots into all these old legacy applications that could use a little bit of fresh paint, right? And you can put Otto on a mobile device so that it's in everybody's pocket. So we'll get started with looking at Otto dashboards. Now, Otto dashboards, when we started thinking about what this should be all about, we set one goal. Let's make it 10 times faster to create a dashboard. And actually, I'm not quite sure if we got to 10x or 100x or 5x. It's kind of a range, right? Depends on the kind of dashboard you're trying to build. But you'll see here, we've got a blank sheet. We've connected it up with some data. And we've got Auto. Auto is that little assistant on the side there. And let me just play this demo. Basically, Auto does a couple of things for you. The first is it recommends the kinds of things and the kinds of analyses you can do based on the data that's available. And so it gives you suggestions. So maybe you're a novice and you really don't even know what this data has in it. Well, Auto's got that cognitive skill, right? So it can understand the data and understand what's possible. And then you can go ahead and ask for something. And then it'll just create it in seconds. And what's really cool is that this is a real MicroStrategy dashboard. And you can change the look and feel, you can format it, you can change things that you want inside it. And so you can go from 0 to a useful dashboard literally in seconds, maybe minutes, but certainly multiple orders of magnitude faster than you could ever before. Now, why does this matter? It matters because the analysts in your organizations today that build dashboards are some of the most precious resources in your company. Actually, we've got one. Her name's Jessica. And it's like everybody needs Jessica's time to get things done because she's the expert. And I suspect you all have a Jessica in your organization. And these are very, very precious resources. So the question is, how do we help free them up, give them more time? And if we can get Jessica to be able to do 5 times as much work in the same amount of time, or maybe even get some more work-life balance, all of those things would be great. All right. Now, once you've built a dashboard, what do you do next? And as I mentioned before, our goal is to inject intelligence into the applications that your users already use. And let's face it, most of our users use Microsoft Office, right? And so over the past year or so, we've been enhancing our Excel connectivity. We've introduced 2 new plugins, a new PowerPoint plugin and a new Teams plugin as well, to basically bring the power of trusted data from MicroStrategy into those tools that people love and use all the time. So in this demo, we've got ourselves an a PowerPoint slide. And you can see up there, you've got the plugin, the MicroStrategy PowerPoint plugin. And it's really straightforward. You click the plugin, you browse for the content that you have. Of course, this is all governed and secured by our enterprise security. You select the pieces that you want, and boom, just like that, they're inside your PowerPoint presentation. Now, this is really powerful because it allows somebody to build great content in MicroStrategy, powered by AI, so now it's only a few seconds, but then bring it into PowerPoint, build their board deck, build their monthly or weekly operations meeting sheet, whatever it might be, and then get it out to the world. And the content that they bring into PowerPoint, importantly, is refreshable, right? So the next time they open it up, next week, they can refresh it, and they can get the new content. Now, it's optionally refreshable, because you don't want to be in the middle of a meeting, and certainly not with a meeting with Fong. You don't want to be in the middle of a meeting, and all of a sudden the data all changes. So this is optionally refreshable. It stays static until you say, I want to refresh it. You get the new data, and you're good to go. All right. Now, the next thing we asked ourselves is, with Gen AI, just how much does the world change? And with every generation of BI, there's been a new content type. It started off in the 90s with the era of reporting, and so the report was the thing. And then came along dashboards, and the dashboard was the thing. It was a new content type. And then when mobile intelligence came along, we invented mobile applications, right? And so in the world of Gen AI, there is, in fact, a new content type. And that content type is a bot. And so what we've done in MicroStrategy is added a new bot object to allow you to build bots on top of MicroStrategy data, so that you can basically get from MicroStrategy data to a great Q&A experience in just a few clicks. So here, just to show you this, we've started, it's a new bot. We've wired it up to some data in MicroStrategy. We just basically selected a data set, so I skipped that part. And once you've done that, you can tweak the data. You can go in, you can give the bot a name, right? You can give it an image. You can actually give it a greeting, because think about your end users. They come in and they see this thing, and the bot can explain to them what it's able to do. You can also suggest topics. You can do things like custom prompts and instructions. And this is actually really important, because with custom instructions, you can actually give the bot a personality. I used to joke around the first days. I would tell the bot to talk like Yoda. And it was kind of hilarious, actually, because you would ask this like really serious question, this finance question, and Yoda would come back, and it would be in the typical Yoda form of answer. So you can give it a personality, and you can use custom instructions to actually specify exactly how it should behave. So that's really cool. Now, once you've taken and created one of these bots, what's the value? Well, the value is, if you think about all of these enterprise applications you have, some of these old legacy apps, some of the newer ones, whatever it might be, and you, I presume, are tasked with injecting AI into these applications. And that's actually really hard, because you have to learn how LLMs work, you got to train them up, you got to secure it, you got to do a whole bunch of things before you can actually inject those bots into those applications. Well, with MicroStrategy and our custom bots, you literally bring data into MicroStrategy. You already know how to do that. You click like 4 buttons and build a bot, and then you can take that bot to a number of different places very, very quickly, basically up-leveling all the applications that you already have out there. Now, of course, I mentioned, we invented mobile intelligence about a decade ago. Michael Saylor actually literally wrote the book on mobile intelligence. And so, of course, these bots are available in your pocket on a mobile device. And I got to tell you, when one of my friends, Jose, showed me the first demo of the bots on a phone, I was like, my God, I grew up in the 80s. And we had this vision of tricorders and these things that you could talk to that would give you answers. And for the first time ever, it started to feel a little bit real, because you can click the microphone button, you can ask it a question, and this thing just magically goes and gets you answers to questions. So I think that's pretty cool. And for your frontline workers who are out there on the job with your customers, what this means is that they never have to say, I don't know, to your customers ever again. They can pull this out, ask a question, and get an answer. Now, the last thing I want to mention here is that we also wanted to make it really easy to then embed the custom bot into your applications. And we've done this in 2 ways. The first, as you can see here, might be a little bit small for you to see, but once you've created a bot, you click the Share button, and then you can click Embed, and then we will actually generate the JavaScript code for you to paste into your application. Right? So that's dead easy. You just grab the JavaScript code, you can tweak it, you can customize it, you can put it in ChatGPT, and it'll tweak it for you, and then you can put it into your application. And so here's an example where we're going to go ahead, we're going to grab the code snippet, and then you can just plop the JavaScript into pretty much any application that allows you to do that, in this particular case, Salesforce. And so why would you do this? Well, there's lots of cases where maybe you have Salesforce, maybe you have some other application, but you have data in other applications. But you want those users to be able to access that other data. Well, you can build a bot on that data coming from different applications, and then you can embed it into the apps that they actually go to all the time, instead of forcing them to have to switch between applications. So those are some of the features that we've done. There's actually one more thing I want to mention is, in addition to the JavaScript, we also have added a REST API on top. And this is actually a really powerful API that allows you to basically programmatically access the power of auto. And I'll just give you a quick story about this. I think it was Tuesday last week. It was 5 p.m., 6 p.m., something like this. And I asked one of my product managers, Shang, hey, man, is it theoretically possible to use our APIs to integrate with Slack? Because we don't yet have Slack integration for the bots. And he's like, yeah, it's theoretically possible. All right, cool. And so I'm like, all right, that's nice. I go to sleep that night, wake up the next morning, and on Teams, ironically, I have this message. And Shang had built a prototype that night of our auto integrated with Slack. Now, it's just a prototype. It didn't do all SSO and all that kind of stuff. It was just a one-night thing. But it just tells you that sky's really the limit. It's really your imagination that limits where you can go with some of these things that we've built. So let's talk about where we're going next. And usually, for those of you that have been to MicroStrategy World before, usually when we say next, we're talking at some unknown time in the future. But today, actually, these pieces here, we're talking about the next couple of months. And so these are things that we're very, very close to shipping. And as I mentioned before, convenience is all about bringing analytics and intelligence out to all those people where they live. We talk about them living in office and bringing it out to them there, bringing it out to their pockets. There's a couple of other areas that they live as well, though. They live in browsers, right? Many enterprise applications and even personal applications are web-based. And so how do we bring it to all of those apps if we don't control those apps? And then, if they're not in a browser, usually they're collaborating more and more now in tools like Teams and Slack. And so how do we bring it out there as well? You know, we invented a product called HyperIntelligence a few years ago. And it was meant to solve this problem, right? How do we actually inject intelligence into web applications if we don't control them? And so what we did is we invented this extension for Chrome and for Edge. And HyperIntelligence watches the things that your users are doing and then injects intelligent things like information about their products, their employees, maybe other things, depending on what you designed it for, in context right into the apps that they're already in. So they don't have to actually jump between things, and they don't have to go to a dashboard and all that sort of stuff. Well, today we're proud to announce that we're bringing auto to HyperIntelligence. And what that effectively does is it brings AI, your AI, that you can build on your data, to pretty much any web application out there in the world very, very quickly and easily. And so here we've kind of mocked up a pretend sales application, because we didn't really want to pick a specific one. But this is a sales application. And you can see HyperIntelligence has already underlined some of the things, like products and whatnot, that it found interesting. And so if I just play this, you'll see that the user can just hover over, and boom, they get instant insights. But there's something new. At the bottom there is a little text box where you can ask questions. And that's exactly what the user can do. So once you've built a bot, you can associate it with a HyperIntelligence card. And now you're injecting not just the card, but also AI right into the workflow for the users. So this is really a way for you to unlock and unleash, it sounds kind of terrible in some ways, unleash AI out into the world, out for your users, in ways that you could never imagine before with just a few little clicks and very, very easily. So that's AI in a browser, auto in a browser via HyperIntelligence. Now, when people aren't in a browser, more and more, they're living in teams. I mean, I spend probably, it's kind of funny, my kids, every once in a while, they see me working at home, and they're like, I don't know if I want to do your job, man. It sounds like you just sit there all day and talk. And it's kind of true, right? We're sitting there in teams, I'm chatting away, and I'm talking away. And that's really, I mean, I live in Teams and Zoom and these kinds of applications pretty much my entire workday. And so how do we inject intelligence into that? Now, I want to take a moment here and pause, because if you just look at this as, oh, cool, autos in Teams, it's like, OK, that's kind of an interesting thing. Sounds valuable. But you really need to think about where this goes and what this represents. Because these bots, what are these bots? Well, these bots are they're like little employees, right? They do things for you. You can have a sales bot, a marketing bot, a supply chain bot, or whatever bot. You can build these things. Now, by bringing them into Teams, you can add them as teammates, right? So if you have a sales channel or a finance channel, you can add the finance bot. You can add the sales bot. You can add the marketing bot. And all of a sudden, these become almost part of your employee base. And you can ask them questions. And imagine where they go next. Imagine they can just watch and see what's going on in a channel and answer questions on your behalf. So you're sleeping at night. Someone says, hey, does anybody know anything about Sainsbury's and what's going on there as a customer? Boom, the bot can just jump in and answer the question. How cool would that be? So this is the future we envision, and that future isn't so far away. And the demo is dead easy, right? So here we are, we're in Teams. Here, you're in a team, you're talking to some people, and someone's got a question. And now you can just go, hey, Otto, can you answer this question for me? And Otto will jump in. It'll use that same underlying semantic graph, that same trusted data, and answer the question. You can do forecasts. And as Otto learns and as Otto gets smarter, it'll be able to do more and more things. This is really just the beginning. And so we plan to ship this just a couple of months from now. Now, there's one thing where I'd like this to go. And we're not quite sure how to solve it from an engineering perspective, but we've got Microsoft in the audience. We've got our engineering team. So what I would love is right now, you'd have to, well, when we ship this, you'd have to say, hey, at Auto or at SalesBot, and then ask a question. And it will answer the question. where we really want this to go is imagine you just add it to your team, and as people talk, they ask questions, and then just like it works today where a human being jumps in and answers the question because like, hey, I know how to answer that. We'd love it if the bot could do that as well. Okay? That's where we'd like to go. There's some engineering challenges because we don't want to send everything to the LLM and have all this like traffic. But if we can figure out a way to solve that problem, I think these bots can really evolve to being little mini employees that work on our behalf. And some of the things that I'm not even talking about today that we've shipped recently around actions, for example, we can now actually have Python actions in our metadata. And so you can imagine these bots not just being able to answer questions, but take action for you, approve a service request or whatever. So the future, like you can kind of see where this is starting to go over time. So I wanted to pause here for a bit because it sounds like just like a basic integration, but the opportunity is actually much bigger than that. So that is everything that we're doing to make business intelligence and AI convenient for you and for your frontline workers. The second major pillar is reliability. And as you all know, we have a long history of data management and governance, and we always got up here and talked about enterprise scale and all these things. And it's kind of funny, right? Because over the past 5 years, nobody cared about that stuff, right? People only cared about visualizations that got completely distracted. And we weren't very happy about that. But the reality is now everyone's kind of coming back to basics because they're realizing if AI can do the visualizations and all that stuff, well, we better get the data to be in good shape, right? And so the importance of a semantic graph all of a sudden becomes 10x more important, maybe 100x more important than ever before. If you have auto to answer questions, it really comes down to that underlying data model and the cleanliness of that data. So we've been doing this for a long time, but with Gen AI, we were able to really take things to a whole new level. And you've seen Auto so far, Auto creating dashboards, Auto embedded, Auto in a hypercard. So you just saw the front of Auto, the face of Auto. But what's going on in the mind of Auto? And if you think about the human brain does lots of different things, but there's 3 kind of big things that are important for a human to function. One is it has to have analytic skills, right? This is the calculation, the math center of your brain. It's usually on this side, by the way. The second is the linguistic center, the reasoning center, something that can understand language and so forth. And the third piece is your memory, so you can learn over time. And we challenged our engineering team. We said, hey, can you replicate that? Can you mimic that in software? And Cesare, who's sitting right there, he's like, I can do that. And they did. And kudos to the engineering team. And what we basically did is we took our semantic graph and our computation. That's the analytic part of Auto, right? It's the left brain of Auto. And then we took and we partnered, Mel helped us partner with Microsoft, and we got OpenAI and the LLM. Now, the LLM is the linguistic part of Auto. It understands language. It can reason. It can behave like an analyst. We can say, hey, LLM, I want to do this kind of analysis. How would I do that? And it can explain how to do that. And then just recently, we added a vector database and some other things. We call that the knowledge store, and we gave Auto a memory. And we're really proud of this, actually, because we think that between these 3 things and some of the things that we've done from an engineering perspective, it really sets us aside in the industry. We've always known that our semantic graph is really powerful, but now you can see why it's more powerful than ever before. Our partnership strategy, right, to be able to embrace OpenAI and Microsoft and take the best of what they have and put it in the brain as well, helped us. And then adding learning capabilities really helps Auto be a lot smarter than really anything that we've seen in the industry. So that is the mind of Auto today. But where are we going next? Well, we want Auto to learn even more. And it was funny, I was talking to Carla, and I was like, Auto doesn't actually make any mistakes. It's the human that's the problem. And it was a bit of a joke. But the reality is this, just like when 2 human beings interact, there can be a lot of miscommunication, right? When somebody says X, I might interpret that differently. Like when my daughter says, I've got a really high GPA, I interpret that differently. Or when someone says, this is expensive, or this is cheap, I interpret that different than somebody else, right? And so how can we have Auto learn things like this at the individual level, because it's not even corporate. It's really at the individual level. And so this is a bit of a hard-to-see demo. We actually tried to scale it yesterday. We weren't able to do it. But this gives you a bit of a sense. What we basically did is we created a lot more interactivity for some of these ambiguous scenarios. So in this particular case, the user says, hey, give me customers with a high customer satisfaction score. And Otto's like, well, what do you mean by high? Right? What's the threshold for high? And then the user then goes and responds and says, high means this, right? If you're trying to go to UVA, by the way, a high GPA is above 4.3. But if you're trying to go somewhere else, a high GPA might be 2.5, right? It really depends. Anyways, so we can learn from that. And the next time I ask for something like this, it will have learned and known how I wanted that question to be answered. So that's really powerful. And similarly, we also add the ability for a user to go, hey, you know what? That's not right. That's not the answer I wanted. And then the user can explain, this is what I intended when I asked that question. And so that's all going to go into that memory center that we talked about in the mind of Otto. Now, the last demo that I'm going to do today is probably the hardest one. If you think about BI, if you think about analytics, we've been talking about frontline workers. And really, we've been talking about the last mile of BI, right? Where it gets out into the world, out to the users, as a chatbot, as a visualization, as a thing. But actually, increasingly, the last mile is getting easier because of AI. What's hard is the first mile of BI, connecting to data, building a data model, making sure that it's clean, fixing it all up, and getting it to a state where you can actually even get to the second and third miles, right? And so we challenged our engineering team. We said, hey, listen, we've got this really powerful semantic graph, and it's growing, and you're giving it memory, and we're giving it linguistic skills, and all this stuff that you're doing. But building one of these things is still a little bit tricky. Can we apply the same principles that we did to Auto Dashboard and bring it to the world of data modeling? And of course, Cesari's like, yeah, I can do that. And so we started working on that about a year ago. You probably, if you were at World last year, you saw some of the initial vision for it. We do actually plan to ship this year, and it's called auto modeling. And basically, I'll walk you through a demo. It's pretty straightforward. We took all the steps between connecting to the data and all the things that you need to do to prepare, wrangle, model, hierarchies, folders, calculations, and we tried to automate as much of that as we possibly could, each one of those steps, with recommendations and with AI. And so that's what this demo does. You go in and you say, I want to create a new data model. And as usual, you select which project you want to put it into. That's kind of classic MicroStrategy stuff. And once you've done that, all you really need to do is pick what's the source of data. And in fact, over time, we're actually going to improve that as well. We don't even have to pick the source of data. You just say what you want. But nonetheless, you pick a source of data, and then you say, hey, I want to do retail sales. And from that point forward, it starts to recommend things and automatically do things for you. So here it's gone. It's picked the right tables that you need to do a retail analysis. You can just say, yeah, I want those. Bring those into my model. Or you can change it. You can say, I only want 6 of these or 4 of these. And then once you bring them in, automatically we start doing all the other things. We start recommending joins. We start recommending object, attribute, and metric creation. We start recommending data prep and data cleansing. We recommend things like names of things and folders. Now, listen, not all of this will be here in the first release, right? But as we evolve, as we go through the years, this is the kind of thing that we really expect. Now, what's the value of this? Under the hood, this is our semantic graph. We're not re-engineering any of the underlying object model or anything like this. And so that means that we inherit 30 years of engineering that we've done in our semantic layer. But then we, just like we did with everything else, we add AI to that and radically simplify the user experience and allow people to get from data to data model to AI in just, hopefully minutes at some point in the future. So that's auto modeling. The last area I want to talk about is our third pillar of flexibility. And as you know, we've always been this open, independent company. This is why we love having Microsoft on stage, AWS on stage. I hope next year we've got Google on stage as well. And so we've always been open to multi-cloud. And in fact, that was a journey. We started with AWS back in 2014. Then we added Azure in roughly 2019. And just in December of 2023, we also added Google. And I believe that makes us maybe the only BI company to provide a managed cloud solution on all 3 hyperscalers, which gives you basically infinite choice. We're always going to be the any data company, and that's why I said at the very beginning, it's like, leave your data where it is. You don't have to move it all to a big data warehouse. You can if you want to, but we'll connect to it wherever it lives, and we'll continue to do that. And importantly, over the last 7 years or so, we've re-engineered all of our APIs so that they're RESTful, very easy to use, but very powerful, so that you can programmatically have access to anything in MicroStrategy. And that allows you to do a lot of things that maybe we don't even do out of the box. In terms of where we're going next is a couple of key areas. The first is multi-LLM. I do think this makes us quite unique because, again, we've got these great partnerships with Microsoft, Google, and AWS. We started with Azure OpenAI, right? They were first to market, and they're really great at what they do. But over time, we absolutely intend to also embrace what AWS is doing with Bedrock and with Anthropic Claude, and then over on the Google side with Gemini as well. So you'll see us evolve in that direction. And again, that gives you full flexibility in terms of being able to use the LLM that makes sense for you and for your business. And the final thing is any cloud. Now you're saying, what on earth is the difference between multi-cloud and any cloud? Is that the same thing? It's not. Multi-cloud is the fact that we support multiple hyperscaler clouds, right? Google, Azure, and AWS. Any cloud is the next step. We've taken and containerized our architecture, and we're going to make that architecture available to our customers to deploy on the Kubernetes deployment of their choice. And what that means is you will be able to run MicroStrategy ONE, including AI, in your own private cloud environment. And we plan to get there by the end of this year. And so that is MicroStrategy ONE and Auto. Pretty much 90% of everything that we showed today is actually available today. You can go and use it. You can go and play with it yourselves. The future is absolutely right now. And it's up to all of you to think about, who are your users, who are these frontline workers, and how can we take this technology to make their lives better? And as you leave in a few minutes here, there's a number of things I want to direct you towards that can get you started right away. The first is go and attend some of the demo sessions. I was only able to touch on a few things, with little mini demos today, but we have much deeper demo sessions in the demo theaters starting at, well, it was supposed to be 11:30, but my guess is it's going to be 11:45. So there'll be one starting in English, and then 15 minutes after that, we also have 2 more in English and in Spanish. So please go check out those demo sessions. Some really great presenters, much deeper demos than I was able to do on stage today. The second thing is visit one of our Build a Bot workshops, okay? And a Build a Bot workshop is digital, okay? You're not actually physically building a bot. You are digitally building a bot, so you can upload some data if you have some, or you can use some of our samples. But at the end of it, you will get your own little auto. So last year, we actually gave these away, just anybody that came. But really, this year, we want you to go play with Auto, play with MicroStrategy AI. And at the end, you get this nice toy. You can take it home. I'm sure your kids will love it. It's nice and heavy. It feels like a real thing. And the final thing I want to say is you can also sign up for a new product that we've just launched online called Auto Express. And Auto Express is a free trial of MicroStrategy AI and Auto. You can go there, you can sign up, you go to express.microstrategy.com, you just register like you would for anything else. And then you can use some of our sample data, or you can upload your own data, and you can build a bot, well, not a physical bot, but you can build a MicroStrategy digital bot. You can also use Auto Dashboard, Auto Answers, and over time, that will be enhanced with things like Auto Data Modeling as well. So I really do hope and wish you a very good event. But before I let you go, there is just one last thing. One last thought I want to leave you all with. And it's really this. Every company needs to have, I would say, an essence that makes them who they are and gives them a core value, if you will. And oftentimes, when it's real, you don't even put a word to it. And MicroStrategy, at its very core, since our founding 35 years ago, it's really been about freedom. It's been about freedom of technology, freedom to look up, freedom for the frontline workers, and importantly, freedom for you all as visionaries to envision the future and then go and make it happen. So thank you all very much, and I wish you a very good World 2024.